Hello, guys. Welcome to another podcast. This one is a follow-up to the podcast I did on preparing for an ayahuasca ceremony in the integration of an ayahuasca ceremony. So after the ceremony itself, I was going to do this as a three-part series. The first being the preparation part, the second being how to handle the ceremony itself, with the third being this one, the integration. But I realised the part two I was going to look at doing about actually being in the ceremony itself. There's no real words that I can give to be with that process or move through that process, and it'd be a disservice to anyone watching it for me to do that. I think it's pertinent to listen to the medicine facilitator and whoever's running the ceremony, but yeah, for me to do it just didn't feel quite right. So something I can certainly talk about, and something that was very important in my whole journey with ayahuasca and other plant medicines as well, but specifically with ayahuasca, was the integration afterwards. It's something that I gave a great deal of importance to, not always doing it well, but had a lot of positive outcomes from really ensuring that I spent time in the integration process. So I'll speak about some of the positive things that worked for me, and also some of the things that I didn't do well enough or could have done better, and we'll go from there. So it'll be a mirror image of the first one I did about the preparation. I'll take you from straight after the ceremony through to the day after, or the day of, and the day after, and then 2 or 3 days after that, and a week or two after that, and it will even go into the weeks, months. I probably won't stretch that far with the podcast, and also years after a ceremony, things will come up. So I'll move through all those and see what comes up. So I guess the first thing is, so most ceremonies are at night time. Very rarely you'll have one during the day, but mostly at night time. And the ceremony may finish about 3:30, 4 o'clock, maybe a little bit early sometimes, maybe a little bit later. You may just go to sleep as soon as the ceremony is over, and the temple space will be at rest. Or another way, what happens sometimes is everyone just gets up and has something to eat, has a bit of a chat, a hug, and say, hey, we got through this, and then go back to sleep after that for a few hours. So whichever way, it really is up to the practitioner and also the type of ceremony involved. So the morning after, you'll wake up, and if it's run correctly, then there'll be some food. Food's very important because don't forget you've fasted. You may have had quite a large purge as well. Even if you haven't, you would have used up quite a lot of energy, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy during the ceremony. So you'll need to resustain yourself, and it's important during the ceremony, I will say though, to keep hydrated as best you can. And if not, then use that time after the ceremony to rehydrate. Coconut water always took in with me. I thought it was always fantastic. So something to eat, something to drink, a bit of a chat, and then probably the most important first step in the integration of the ceremony that you've had is the sharing circle. So you get together in just that, a circle. Everyone will sit down. Often there'll be a talking stick which will be passed around, and as you receive that talking stick, you will share what you feel like sharing pertinent to your experience. You may have been in a ceremony there was only 2 or 3 people, or you may have been in a ceremony where there was anywhere between 30 to 50 people. So the length of your share is sort of really is based on that, because if there's 50 people there, you don't want each individual to spend 20 minutes sharing their experience. But it won't matter so much if there's only a couple of people. Either way, I think it's good just to keep the core story or core experience and use that in your sharing. There's no need to go off on different aspects of the experience itself or your previous life. It is, if you really feel you need to though, please go ahead. But it is a time to be mindful and respectful of other people's as well. Time during that stage. So your facilitator / shaman will put a good measure on that anyway, and will ask you to move through as is needed. But the sharing is really just a fantastic way to reflect for yourself what you've experienced, what came up, what you may have shared, things you weren't even aware of that were brought up to be seen. You may have seen some absolutely magical, orgasmic things / experiences. You may have gone to the pits of hell as well. But is that thing of there's no such thing as a good or bad experience, really. It's just an experience. So sharing that is a great first and important step in the integration of your experience. What is also fantastic is listening and intently listening with compassion to other people's sharings as well. Because what you'll find is that other people's experiences and their sharing of it will greatly assist you as well in your understanding of your ceremony, not only your ceremony, but also of life in general. So I always got quite a lot out of listening to other people's experiences and their sharing, and it really helped me in a lot of aspects of my life. Having said that, there's also that aspect too. If it's a large circle, you can get a bit... what's the word? You want the feeling of the ceremony to move on, and you can get a bit itchy, and you want to even a little bit agitated about how long it all might be taking. But this is just a time where patience is really key. You might be really into it. It doesn't, it just depends on the situation you've had, what you've got going on in your life. So yeah, it's an important aspect of it to just be with it, sit with it. Remember that other people's experiences can greatly help your own understanding of your own self, and to use that as a valuable lesson. So there also may be a hands-on healing, so there might be some physical integration that goes on. Some shamans also, in the morning, they'll have another half a cup or full cup of ayahuasca, and then have a sort of mini daytime ceremony where there'll be artwork and dancing and music, and it's a good opportunity to get up and move, which will lead me into my next thing, but the movement aspect of it and how important that is. But yeah, it's very few that do that. I know, say from Brazil, the Caxinhaua tribe, it's all about dancing and movement in the second half of the ceremony and into the morning. It's a full night experience. And yeah, it just depends on the lineage and the different practices that the medicine facilitator or shaman utilizes. So yeah, the movement, to me, physical movement is our, I don't know if it's our greatest healing tool, but one of our greatest healing tools. It's certainly one of our greatest healing tools. When you look at yoga, I'm thinking yoga, running, just any time moving, dancing, ecstatic dance, all that sort of thing. It's a very therapeutic experience. And I've had experiences in the medicine where, with the Caxinhaua especially, where it is all about moving and being in your movement with the medicine, that I've purged from it. Like I've moved and something's been brought up, and I've had a massive release from it. So it's vitally important, is the moving aspect. But you may feel a bit tender after a ceremony. So the most important thing really is just to ground and to be gentle with yourself. So straight after the ceremony, you'll have something to eat, a bit of a mingle, a bit of a chat, get together for the sharing circle, share your experiences, really use it as a time to reflect, and then move on from there. It's time then to say your goodbyes, your thank yous, and then it's time to leave the temple space. So one of the things I I felt was very important for me was to get out and ground myself by going to the beach or going into the trees, or just getting my bare feet onto the soil to really earth myself and ground, and to really just spend some time in quiet to both rest and recover and recalibrate as well. So there was always something that was very important. If you leave that temple space and you go straight out to KFC and hoe down on a bucket of fried chicken, it's not gonna bode well. And it's very important just to be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, give yourself and your higher self what you need, and it goes a long way into the processing in the days, weeks, and months afterwards, after the ceremony as well. So I really implore you just to really give yourself that time, whether it's the day of and the next day as well, however long it feels you may take. We live in a world where we're sort of pushed for time. We don't have that much in the way of leisure time. You may need to go back to work the next day, etc. So it can be a struggle. It really can. So it's just important to give yourself as much space as you can after the ceremony. So yeah, that those days afterwards, it's really about consolidation. So really using that time to reflect upon what happened, what you experienced, especially if it was your first experience. Because I know after my first ceremony, it took me months to feel some semblance of, the new normal, because I was never going to be the same again, but to put myself back together with this new feeling that I had about myself and the universe around me. It took some time just to be gentle with myself. Not that I always was. And it can be, quite an intense experience in the days and weeks afterwards, from a first ceremony, especially. As you move on and as you do more ceremonies, the integration becomes easier, and you're able to deal with the real world, even though it's really the dream world afterwards. But yeah, certainly for the first ceremony, it's important just to really be gentle, to, as much as you can, extend the ayahuasca diet. So what I spoke about in the preparation for ayahuasca ceremony podcast is to really continue with that as best you can. So just eat healthy, stay away from alcohol, even coffee, stay away from illicit substances, and really just nurture your human vessel, your temple, to give it the best possible chance to recover from the experience it's had, because that also relates to your psychosomatic systems as well, and your emotional state, mental and spiritual state. So yeah, really spending those few days afterwards, again, being gentle with yourself. Try not to judge anything. Don't reflect back in sort of fear or anger or even happiness. Just try and look at it from an objective point of view of the experience that you had, and that is the best way to learn and gain the wisdom and heal from what may have happened in the ceremony itself. After that, you may start to feel like talking to people about your experiences. I think this is going back to, again, what I spoke about in the preparation episode about surrounding yourself or having good people in your life is very important. If you've got a toxic circle of friends, you really got to consider what you're doing with them and parting ways, even if it means being on your own for a while. That can also include family too. So if you're fortunate enough and you've cultivated a good group of people around you, then it's very worthwhile to speak to them and have a chat to them about your experiences, because that helps even further integrate the experience and to bring it deep within you, what you've healed within yourself or what you've learnt about yourself. there's no real groups or circles you can go to. There's some online forums that you can maybe go to speak to about your experiences, but they're fraught with danger as far as like negative bias and toxicity as well. So I always stay well away from those sort of sites. Just keep it local. Just keep it to your good friends and family. If you feel like you can talk to them, then please do so. It's very important, and it goes a long way to really helping with what you're going through. I was very fortunate to have some just really amazing people that I could talk to about my experiences, both people that had an ayahuasca experience before, but also some that didn't, which was good to get that perspective as well. And it went a long way to helping me in recovering or learning. Because, again, if you've never done an ayahuasca experience, it's hard to sort of put into words what the outcome of it is. So if you are listening to this and you have, then you know what I mean. And if you haven't had an experience yet, then I'm looking forward to you finding out, because it's quite an incredible trip, as they say. You may want to speak to the shaman again. I think in those days afterwards always helps. They might be quite busy though with other people and just their normal life as well. So see how you go with that. It helped me. I went back and saw one of not the shaman itself, the head facilitator of my first ceremony, but one of the helpers. I went and saw them maybe 2.5 months after my first experience, and I just went for a hands-on healing, and just I needed to feel like that semblance of being put back together again and that grounding that comes from it. So it really helped me seeing that person, and I'll be forever grateful for that experience of that hands-on healing, because I was sort of still a little bit lost and separated would be the word. As I underwent and undertook more ceremonies, I was better able to do that myself. But certainly for the first one, it definitely pays to speak to one of the facilitators of the ceremonies, one of the helpers especially, and ask for their help in the integration process as well. That's all part of their job. They're there in service, and it's an important aspect of the whole experience itself. So that might be like days, weeks, even months afterwards. So they're really the main points. I think the most important thing to, if you're going into this, is to understand that the ceremony itself is sort of 50% of the whole experience. The other 50% of the experience is the integration. Without a sound integration, without a well-considered, peaceful, sort of mindful integration, what tends to happen and what can happen, and I've seen it happen, is that the same thing will just come back up again for the person. So you'll sort of go back to starting from scratch. So, which is, I guess, is fine. Like if that's the way it happens and if that's the way it goes for people, then that's just the way it is. But it is the way to optimize and move forward at the best possible rate, is to integrate effectively. And it's again, the job's not done when the ceremony is over. Like it's really just, the job is just beginning, and the more intent that you can give to the integration, and the better you can carry it out for yourself, the more of an exponential trajectory you'll be on, being the person you want to be and understanding the things you want to understand. So, I think that's it. As far as the integration of it goes, if you're watching this episode, please go back to, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes now, where I spoke about the preparation of, if you're interested in that, especially if you haven't partaken in an ayahuasca ceremony before. I really implore you to go back to that one. if you've got one coming up, or you've just finished one, or you may have had several and you're still learning about the integration process, and you have any questions about that, please let me know. You can contact me. I'll leave my email address at the bottom of this, or you can find me through Facebook, and I'll only be too happy to help. And I guess the main takeaway I want to just say is, again, just be gentle with yourself. Like for me, it took a good few ceremonies to really understand what integration was all about and the importance of it as well. So I had many ups and downs, like many ups and downs. I didn't handle at all well with the integration after some ceremonies, and in some moments of my life where all this shit was starting to come up, and rightfully so, it needed to, but it can be quite hard to look at and then to deal with. So it's not a smooth process, but it's a very worthy process, and one that's very important in the awakening of this planet, in the healing that is occurring. So thank you very much, everyone. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I'll speak to you next time. See you.